Hi and welcome to LastWatch. If you're new to the channel, then please consider subscribing. Like this video and hit the notifications button. I'd hate for you to miss out on any of my future content. If you're wondering about the Men in Black Marvel Universe introduction, then things should become clearer when I unveil today's out of this world watch, which comes courtesy of Singapore-based Kaal Watches, a new micro brand founded by the trio behind Azimuth Watches and Trifolio Italia. You may very well have seen or possibly own the humanity defending Mr. Roboto or the spaceship from Azimuth. Or maybe you opted for the mesmerising dials of the Millimetro or Radio City from Trifolio. Before I open this mini flight case, I should point out that the watch you're about to see is a prototype that is currently on tour, therefore may show some signs of wear. I also have a list of updates that are planned for the final production models, which I will do my best to explain. The watch will be winging its way back to Kaal Watches or another reviewer. I'm not being paid for this review, nor have I been promised a production watch or any kickback from future sales. Regardless, I will as always give a fair and impartial review. The first thing I need to point out is that your watch will arrive in its own little travel pouch with a Multiverse design and comes with a 2-year guarantee. This mini flight case is purely for transport to the LastWatch residence. This is the Gaea from Kaal Watches, one of 3 themed dials in their Multiverse range. There is a Sol featuring the Sun and the Artemis featuring the Moon. The Gaea, or Gaia, is named after the Greek goddess of the earth and features the blue marble we inhabit. The Gaia is not exactly a cuff-friendly watch, and rather than let you take my word for it, my calipers will be making a return cameo to confirm its dimensions. It has a diameter of 42.2mm, a lug width of 21.8, pretty much 22mm, and an accommodating lug-to-lug of 47.5mm. Its weight on the supplied Horween leather strap is a reasonable 111.5 grams. And I've saved the best till last. The case thickness, including the double dome sapphire glass, comes in at a whopping 19.5mm, making it by far the thickest watch to appear on the channel. I'm sure the Gaea's thickness will be a reoccurring theme in today's review, but let's move forward by taking a closer look at the UFO-shaped body of the watch. The case is 316L stainless steel with a very fine all-brushed finish. Its profile shows a predominantly flat mid-case with well-rounded turn-down lugs. There are some polished mock caps with a sandblasted 5-pointed star at their centres, purely for decoration, but they look like plugs for the non-existent drill lugs. The top of the brushed lugs each have what looks like a sandblasted comet with tail, very in keeping with a celestial theme. The pull-out crown is unguarded, well-sized and easy to grip. It has a rough, unfinished, diamond-cut style knurling, divided midway with a black rubber washer. The crown has the Kaal logo cut into it, which has been filled with C3 superluminova, a nice touch. The K of the Kaal logo represents the second, minute and hour hand of your standard watch, none of which are visible on the Gaia. The Kaal brand name is derived from the Sanskrit for time. Kaal have used a lot of old languages and mythology when it comes to naming their brand and their watches. Winding the crown also highlights that this may be the loudest watch I have ever encountered. No doubt the acoustics have been boosted by the watch's amphitheatre interior. The sapphire crystal that sits on top of the Gaia is not hard to miss. It's a gargantuan double dome that rises, by my estimate, a stratospheric 6mm. It's a crystal that catches a lot of reflections, but it does have an inner anti-reflective coating to help diffuse the inevitable. What the crystal does very well is to divert your eyes from the extremely thick and acutely steep brushed bezel that it sits atop. And this watch needs its thickness, or more to the point, it needs depth, which leads us neatly to the dial within. This is most definitely a three-dimensional dial. I'll work from the outside in. We have a white outer chapter ring that sits within the rehaut and cambers towards the inner dial. It has what I would describe as black printed road markings broken up into 5-minute or 5-second intervals, and a black inverted triangle for the 12 o'clock position, which to my eye looks slightly misaligned. The white of the chapter ring, as you will see shortly, radiates C3 lume. The inner dial is a clever piece of design, as we have a free floating transparent disc with what looks like aged white Arabics that rotate to give you the hour. I'm not a fan of the font that Kaal have utilised here, but it is very in keeping with a sci-fi theme and reminiscent of the titles used by many a low-budget alien invasion movie and early video games of the 1980s. Their off-white 4 patina colour is courtesy of their C3 Luminova. The transparent disc floats above a fixed base dial of aventurine. I had to Google that one, guys. Aventurine is a form of quartz in various colours with mineral inclusions that give a shimmering or glistening effect, perfect for a backdrop of a night sky dotted with stars. At the centre of the dial is our globe that Gaea presides over. It's a contoured disc that has an artist's impression of the Earth rather than the detailed planet that we live on. I'm a little disappointed that I'm unable to make out the continents. Maybe Neil Armstrong felt the same way when he looked back at the Earth while standing on the moon. Probably not. Looking more closely at our planet, you will notice two astronomical objects in its orbit. A rather fast-paced satellite of nondescript origin to represent the seconds hand, and a slower-moving North Star to represent the minutes. Kaal have acknowledged that these time tellers may be less than legible, so the seconds orb will be increased in size on the final production models. The North Star will also be enlarged and gain a red outline. Both indicators have C3 lume. Kaal have opted to have a significant support arm for the floating globe, which spans the width of the dial. Although I can understand its necessity and appreciate that its construction fits well with the 1950s theme, looking like a strut from a deep space cruiser, it detracts considerably from the visual impact of the dial. It's also not helped by the highly visible, slightly off-kilter screw head at its centre. It's not all bad though, as much like a child's nightlight that projects the stars onto a bedroom ceiling, the best way to view this watch is in the dark. The abundance of lume make this a three-dimensional extravaganza, and the Earth seems to shimmer around its edge, lit by a heavenly glow. This is where you see the benefit of the large bezel and expansive crystal, which give the dial its much-needed depth. The rear of the watch reveals a caseback held in place with 4 very small screws. It's decorated with a diagram showing the planets and their orbits within our solar system. There's a modest-sized display window representing the Sun, which allows you to see the mainspring of the Seiko NH35 movement within. The Seiko NH35 is a micro-brand favourite. It has 24 joules and ticks at 21,600 beats an hour. It has a 41-hour power reserve and an accuracy rating between -20 and +40 seconds per day. As this is a prototype, I've decided not to test its accuracy. The caseback currently has text for the Kaal watch name and also the Multiverse edition. The production models will also include a serial number from 1 to 100, as each of the Multiverse watches will be limited to 100. It's not mentioned anywhere on the case, but the Gaea has 30 meters of water resistance. The soft black leather strap of the Gaea is described as a premium Horween leather. It starts at 22mm at the lugs and tapers to a little over 19mm. It's fairly pliable for a piece of leather that is 4mm thick. It's accentuated with some white stitching and benefits from a Kaal logo on its tail. It has 2 leather keepers which will eventually come double stitched, and a stainless steel tang and buckle. The buckle is predominantly brushed with a striking polished chamfered outer edge and is signed with an etched Kaal logo. I have no idea how much wrist time this strap has seen, but it does look overly worn for a prototype. Courtesy of the quick release spring bars, swapping it out for something fresh should be a quick fix. Quite surprisingly, and no doubt due to the accommodating lug-to-lug length and the mid-size 42mm case diameter, the watch wears pretty well, and rather comfortably. It doesn't look at all out of place. That is until you see it in profile and you are suddenly reminded of its bulbous design. If the Gaea had deep-sea credentials, then you might accept its fishbowl appearance, but with only 30 meters of water resistance, you may be less forgiving. If you're brave enough to go where no one has gone before and seek out a watch from the Multiverse collection, it will cost you $699, which is around £495 or €575. Alvin Liu, one of the co-founders at Kaal, has graciously organised a discount code, LastWatch 100, which will shave $100 off that price tag. The Gaea, like the Sol and the Artemis, is certainly a bold and unique watch that doesn't hold back with its out-of-this-world theme, but its build and design delivers more of a space oddity than a new frontier in watchmaking. If you're a retro-futuristic fan of the 1950s or a steampunk connoisseur, then the Gaea may be your dream watch. Unfortunately, it's not for me. It feels a lot like the first sketch off the drawing board that needs a little more refinement. Although there are some great ideas here with a clever use of hidden hands, floating dials and the abundance of lume, I'm not entirely sure that all the individual parts sit well together. The macro shots also show some rough finishing on the case, dial and caseback. And it's a thick watch with a goldfish bowl crystal that may be prone to more than its fair share of knocks. After all, it has its own gravity. Then there's the price, $700 for an NH35 movement. That might be a hard pill to swallow. I'm guessing most of the budget went on that sapphire dome and the quartz dial. I am reminded though that this is a prototype and the production models may well be a whole new world waiting to be explored. Let me know what you think of the Multiverse collection, or if you're planning on having a close encounter with the Gaea, the Sol or the Artemis. Did they do enough to persuade you to part with your cash? I will, as always, look forward to reading your comments below. Many thanks to Alvin at Kaal Watches for letting me get hands-on with the Gaea. It's much appreciated and I wish you well with the launch. And to you LastWatchers, thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next video.